got green.
I'm wearing green.
Oh,
I have a green bag.
oh,
I'm wearing
Bruce.
Bruce is wearing green.
I have green pants and a green sweater. 'Cause I
My
have white.
perception is that I'm wearing green.
We're not going there, Paul, okay?
Green. Who is it?
Oh. Killing me. Back there.
I pink it up. I say yellow. Sorry.
Jacqueline, are you Irish?
It's my ancestors, maybe.
Okay. Where were we?
We were at the beginning of class.
Oh, my.
Is that right? We're here.
Apparently, G says get on with it.
Says, tell Bruce and Chris to stop going
Shut up.
She didn't. She said I don't. She's now going to say, "Don't didn't say that."
She's very brave at a distance.
Hi, G, scratch the dog for me.
All right. So one of the things, when you have a direct perception of emptiness, one of the realizations you have in the aftermath, the period after coming out of that experience is seeing that there are three different realms of existence. And you see that there is a desire realm, which is I was looking for something, but I don't see it. Yeah, it says separate area of reality. So, when you have the direct experience of these different realms of existence, the desire realm, which is where we are, you see it as a defective realm, as a broken realm, and you see, you realize that it's a defective realm and doesn't work properly and can't work properly. And so the beings who are here, by definition, are defective beings. It's not possible to have the type of life which we would aspire to if we were ordinary human beings in the desire realm. Right? By definition, our mind is messed up, our bodies are messed up, and they can't function as human bodies and minds. They can't function to bring us the results that we aspire to for happiness. So, if we're in this realm, it means that we're primarily driven by mental afflictions. Right? We're mainly motivated by mental afflictions, and mainly it's called the desire realm because we're mainly motivated by desire. And the first Dalai Lama says that we're mainly motivated by the desire for food and sex. And so we spend most of our time and most of our energy thinking about, how can I get those things? Because we want to be happy. And we have some kind of idea that if I can get some beautiful thing, then I'll be happy. Like if I can get something that tastes really good, I'll be happy. If I can get something that feels really good, I'll be happy, right? And so the notion that there's some kind of lasting happiness. I mean, I remember when I was younger and I used to date, it used to be like, oh, they look just right. And then they sound just right. And they act just right. I'm going to be happy, right? I'm going to be happy. My life is going to be good because I got just the right stuff, And it's this kind of crazy notion that we have at a certain point in life, I think, as ordinary human beings, which is if I can just find the right combination of things in a person, the right appearance, the right grooming, the right fashion, the right manners, etc., 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 that that combination will bring me the satisfaction and happiness that I want. And not only that, not just now, but that somehow it will be lasting. Somehow it will obtain and persist over time, right? When in fact everything changes, right? Moment to moment. So it's this crazy notion that we have. We'll come to it later, I hope. We'll get into it more. But anyway, as a being of the desire realm, our mind is full of mental afflictions, and our body's going to fall apart. Everything we have is going to get ruined. It's not possible to stay healthy in this realm. It's not possible to be free of mental afflictions as an ordinary human being in this realm. And it's just total suffering. And it's not possible to fix it. Like, if you're living here as a human being, to think that we can fix it is ignorant. Like, I spent a lot of my life thinking if I could just fix things, everything would be okay, right? If I could just get the right relationship, if I could just fix that relationship, if I could just fix that job, if I could just, fix where I live and fix where I go on vacation and just make it all this better and that better and the other thing better, I'll be happy. No, it doesn't work. Not possible. It's like having a defective product, a defective lawnmower or something. You can tinker with it all you want. It's not going to run. It's not going to work. It's broken. And this realm is like that. You can tinker with it all you want. You can try a little more of this, a little less of that. I spent years doing it. It's like, I need a faster car. I need a nicer house. I need a faster girlfriend. I need more time alone. I need less time alone. It goes on and on and on, And at some point, it's just like, it's just not working. And which is why we're here, right? Because somewhere along the way we realize that no matter how much we tinker with it and how much we tweak it and how much we try different combinations and permutations, it's never going to bring happiness. Even perhaps beyond a brief experience. It's hard enough to get a brief experience of happiness, goddammit, let alone like a 10-year experience of happiness, right? Right? Give me a break, I'm here already, right? Jesus.
That's where you get fooled. You fix it, and you get happy for a minute, and you think you can do it.
Right, you get happy for a minute, and you're like, yes! And it sucks like a day later, or an hour later, or whatever the case might be, right?
What about the perfect job? Does that exist?
Good luck with that one, too. I know there must be a perfect job out there somewhere. Right?
Just by nature of the question, you have the answer.
Right. So, nothing works here, and it can't work, to bring happiness, in any lasting way. And it basically doesn't even function, you can't even really have any kind of lengthy interpersonal interaction without somebody irritating somebody else. How long can you talk to someone without thinking, that's dumb, or some other mental affliction, right? You can't even have a conversation for an hour without having something go off in your mind, right? It just doesn't work. Things don't work, right? So,
what did I see in that person?
right? This realm is broken and we have to get out of it. That's the point. It's not the case that, this monster was hiding behind the smile and the lipstick and the hair and the outfit. There wasn't really a monster lurking in there, hiding, waiting to come out, And then they tricked you like a week later and it's like, wow, oh my God, what have I done, Not like that. Why? Karma changes. Karma wears out, right? We have these great ripenings into like a beautiful experience, and then what happens? We use up the karma. The karma's done, and what are we left with? A monster. Because that's the karma that's coming up next, right? And, it doesn't have to be that way, but it takes a lot of work and a lot of effort for it to be different than that. Why? Because you have to treat the person well all the time. And who does that?
How do you strike a balance between perceiving someone as suffering in a suffering realm and kind of like planting seeds for the perception of them as your teacher or as a holy being? Yeah, so that's a great question, thank you. It's the separating of past karma ripening and collection of future karma, which is always very important to do. I'm having this perception, I'm having this valid experience right now, which is, past imprints, past karmas. My mind is having this valid experience right now of this schmuck or this jerk or this suffering person or whatever it might be, this abused person or whatever it might be, right? And these are all my past karmas which are ripening into this experience right now, and it's painful and it's unpleasant and all the rest, right? And the way I think right now, the way I behave right now collects my future karma. So there's the ability to separate past ripening from collection of karma for the future, right? Yes, it's unpleasant right now, and yes, they are validly appearing as a really beaten up, unhappy, miserable person. And they aren't self-existently that. They aren't a beaten up, miserable person from their own side.
It does not reside within them. They are not carrying it around, broadcasting it to me, right? So they're a blank screen, which I'm projecting onto, you know? And so I need to just approach this as a blank screen, and I need to do the projection and the behavior and the collection of karma, which I consciously choose, for my future results and my future outcomes.
Without trying to fix it.
In the present moment.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's compassion in the present moment. Obviously, you have to have the one would hope there would be a bodhisattva intention in the present moment.
Referencing your tendency to try and fix things to make yourself happy.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's broken. Everything. I mean, this is hard cement. You know, once the karmic seeds ripen, you're working with hard cement. You know, you can work with karmic seeds before they ripen, while it's still wet cement. Right. Once the karmic seed ripens and brings its result, you have the result. It's already there, and you have the hard cement. So it's like saying, well, I just broke my leg, and let me work with karma to not have a broken leg, right? You have a broken leg. Now, could you, in some very extraordinary circumstance, change the karma and have your leg magically heal? I suppose so. Not typically, you know, but much better to work with karma before it ripens into a broken leg.
The question is because having the projection of the broken leg have time, which means there are seeds of that. You have now seed happening with the broken leg, but let's say, how long will that kind of seed last? From like 3 months, 2 weeks, 2 years? So I mean, there might be work on reducing the amount of or the speed in which that seed will ripen in a way that are still future. I mean, because having a broken leg is not one karma. It's a constant karma. Many karmas that come one moment of projecting a broken leg.
Yeah.
So at least there is a work that for the future seeds that's about to come will ripen faster or not ripen as much. I mean.
So we got to move because we're about halfway through class and there's 15 minutes left. Which is kind of. So we have the 3 realms: the desire realm, the form realm, and the formless realm. Right? Formless realm. It's what it sounds like. You don't have this heap or the skandha of physical form. So, you know, we have 5 heaps, right? Different realms, beings have different heaps. Some realms, they don't have the same sense as we have. In the formless realm, there's no physical form. It's mental existence, right? So if you die and take a formless realm rebirth, then you're having a mental existence, right? And stuff like that. So the form realm, there are different ways in Buddhist cosmology, there are different ways that realms are talked about, and you can say there's, you know, we see the animal realm and the human realm. Those are the realms we can see. And Buddhism would say there are other realms too. There's the craving spirit realm, there's the hell realm, there's the higher realms of
Hungry ghost realm?
yeah, that's craving spirits. The same thing. Beings which have led very miserly existences, and I mean we can go in, we don't have time to go into it, but there are certain causes to take rebirth as a craving spirit or hungry ghost. Basically being very stingy, not sharing resources, miserliness. This is a whole list of things. But so what does it take to be reborn? And don't think in terms of being reborn as going somewhere. What does it take to see oneself as a craving spirit? You collect the karma causes, the energetic seeds, impulses, to be very stingy and miserly and not help others and not let others have things, and then your perception shift into you not having things and never being able to get enough in an extreme sense. The karma expands and blows up in an extreme sense, such as you can never get food, you can never get drink, you're always craving, you're never satisfied, etc., etc., etc. So it's the same idea with all the different realms, right? In the hell realms, there are hot hells in Buddhist cosmology. They go into hot hells and cold hells. The idea is basically that you don't die. Your physical body cannot die. So you're reborn in a hell realm, and you're just continuously regenerating, and you're burning all the time and being hacked up all the time and continuously physically regenerating, and still feeling the pain and suffering and conscious all the time.
Something that always bothers, like what different karma will create hot or rather than cold hell? I mean because it sounds like the same experience of suffering. Why do you have them both?
Well, I don't know. I suppose you can think in terms of
Are you really worried about that?
I'm not worried about it.
I mean, why does your mind, there's the karma, why does your mind present it with yourself with that kind of question?
I don't know, but I hope not for my own experience, but...
Who's worried about whether you're going to a hot
We have to move on.
What if we come
We want to know how to dress.
Okay, as the arbitrator of relevancy, you're gonna have to
Michelle
show
and
that.
those thoughts he told me that you'd have halfway through your retreat.
So then we have the form realm. We have beings with beautiful bodies,
You know,
beautiful forms. The idea is they have the most beautiful form that you can have without being in paradise. So these are beings which take rebirth in the cycle of rebirth, where they have just exquisite forms. And basically you just have anything you want all the time. You just totally blissed out in various ways. And so that reaching that kind of sort of temporary marvelous existences in Buddhism is considered to be very undesirable, because you simply live a very long lifespan consuming your virtuous karmas, and then you basically don't have any left, and then all that's left in your karmic pocket are negative karmas, and then you go straight to hell realm, because you lived for 1,000,000 years in paradise and used all of your positive seeds, and then a heavy concentration of negative seeds, and they ripen into a very unpleasant next rebirth, which is again just a perceptual shift, right? It's not like you're going, right? All right. Let's see. So to attain the form realm, make sure I get it right. Yeah, so it's the form realms. These temporary worldly paradises are considered to be really a mistake in Buddhism and not desirable, because, as I mentioned, it's a great high and then a crash. And the way you reach those is by doing extensive meditation, breathing meditations, or mind meditations, where you're simply watching the mind or calming the mind. Is considered to be a very gray area from a Buddhist perspective. The original Indian scriptures and commentaries don't instruct the practice of breathing meditation or watching the mind type meditations at all as a practice, as a spiritual practice. They're used as a first step to shift the mind into neutral before you then move on to other things. So they're just a little quick thing that one does as a transitional thing. They're not meant as a focus of meditation. If one does these types of meditations where one is watching the mind for weeks and months and years, or watching thoughts come and go, or just watching the breath, then that is actually a cause to take rebirth in the form realm, and one of the higher realms, because you're meditating substantially. Your mind is made very subtle and very calm and very refined, and you're not collecting negativity because you're in meditation so much of the time, and it feels good. If you do any kind of extensive breathing meditation, it actually feels pretty good. So just sit there and watch your breath and calm your mind and, kind of buzz out. It's nice. And so you do that a lot, and then you create the cause for a rebirth in a form realm, which is a way station to hell realm on the next rebirth. So, it's like that. Okay. What else do we want to make sure we cover?
If you have time, I have a comment about
Yeah, go ahead.
So basically, if you really read the original text, the Abhidhamma of Navadvip, the Theravada text, so there are 41 types of meditation. It doesn't matter what techniques of meditation you use, it's matter what jhana you achieve. It's about the jhanas that you reach. If you reach the form jhana, reaching the form realms, the Buddha gave each meditation to which jhana it can take you, and if you do the formless, reach the formless jhana, you get into the formless realm, and it's not about the techniques of meditation doesn't really matter actually. And the 41 meditation is the meditation that has to do with vipassana, to give you insight, because this is the only one that cuts the root of the suffering. Because you see, if like the lower school, you see non-self directly. But for that you have to touch at least the first jhana, and the Buddha actually recommended a lot. Anapanasati, for example, is a very, very common Buddhist meditation, which actually use the breath to create a little bit like that level of calmness, but also because the breath itself is a changing object. It's not like something which is stable. So we can learn impermanence, non-self, and suffering very well from that. Doesn't, I mean, can go, don't do that too much into it, but ultimately you can reach jhana from many, many types of meditation. Even looking at corpse as it decay can get you into the first jhana, and then you can get into the first form in a way. So it's basically your concentration achievement, if you want. Okay, it's called.
So when we talk about the desire realm, the primary motives are desire for food and sex. Why are we motivated by the desire for food and sex? Because we want to feel good, because we want to be happy, because they are sources of bliss for us, right? I mean, we think in terms of, I want to feel better, I want to feel good, I want to be uplifted, I want happiness, right? And these are the things that I know that'll bring me that. So, unfortunately, pursuing those things will actually kill you in this realm. Spending our time and energy pursuing food or sex will simply lead to dying, ordinary suffering, death, right? And our goal and our practice is to actually have great bliss from pretty much everything all the time, and that's the purpose of engaging in spiritual path and practice, right? We aspire to higher things, hopefully with the understanding and the knowledge that it's possible to have higher happiness, higher pleasure, and higher bliss as a result of virtue and meditation. Right? Initially, it's very difficult to struggle against the mind and fight with the mind to re-habituate it away from being obsessed with ordinary mundane pursuits. And I want this to be gratified, and I want that to be gratified, and if I consume this, I'll feel better, on and on and on. And when in fact one starts to actually pay close attention to their ethics and their purity of behavior and thought, and starts to meditate consistently, one actually feels really good. One actually starts to feel good within oneself. And so the act of sitting down and meditating consistently every morning becomes a refuge in that it's a very uplifting, positive, high feeling. And the more one does it, the higher the feeling is and the more blissful the feeling is. And to the point where it can become a problem on the path where one is pursuing the bliss of meditation, just like one would be pursuing the bliss of sex or anything else. But the point being that it's a much more dependable, consistent, and productive pursuit of bliss and gratification and upliftment and fulfillment than pursuing food and sex and other worldly activities. The challenge is to get over the hump and pursue it consistently enough to feel that. There's this period of making the efforts where it's a lot of hard work before one starts to get the returns of, wow, it actually feels really nice to be sitting here. It feels really good to be doing this every morning. I feel really satisfied. I feel really better. I feel much better in my life, doing this. And I actually feel really high just from sitting here for this period of time, And I remember, again, 4 minutes, but I remember when I met a friend many years ago. She had just finished a year of retreat or something. She's like, my boyfriend wants to have sex, and it's just such a downer to have an orgasm. I much enjoy meditation. Meditation is so much better than sex and orgasm and everything else. It's like such a drag to have have an orgasm.
Really?
It's like so. But one has to get there, right? That's the point. But it is possible. No comment. Thank you, Bruce.
It's too easy a pitch.
Yeah, let me just leave it, okay?
Yeah.
So the idea of the bardo, because we only have 3 minutes. So the idea of the bardo is an intermediate state. The bardo is basically a perceptual shift. It's not like you hop into a bardo body and you travel across the universe and you hop out of the bardo body into your next body, right? A bardo is a perceptual shift. It's describing a series of perceptions, right? So I have the perception of this body falling over and not moving. My mind continues to function, continues to shift, continues to have perceptions, and I continue to have other perceptions no longer associated with this body. So this is the experience of the bardo. I have all these perceptions of traveling and transitioning and coming into a new realm and new form and the whole series of things around that, right? And so that's what the bardo experience is, and that's what a bardo body is having the perception of having that kind of transitional life and experience for taking a rebirth, meaning having a perceptual shift of having a body which is going to last for however long, right? A longer period of time, all right? So that's the story of the bardo.
Isn't Bardo in this tradition, like promoting this tradition, it's kind of very much the trip of other Tibetan Buddhist school that I heard here. It's not so much, simply death is like shifting consciousness and you project another body. It's more, I heard some people in this school talking about the Bardo as something which is very typical for lower schools, I guess.
I didn't get the question.
Like is in this tradition, especially Madhyamika, does they really consider the idea of the Bardo as a valid one? Because at least Lama Dvora says sometimes that it's simply a shift of when you die. It's not about that you go through transition. It's simply different karma come and you simply project yourself as man and then project yourself as an alligator, and the karma shift when you die. And it's more like in other schools, like in Kagyu, it's very much about Pova and all of this. But it's all about the Bardo, the Bardo Todol and stuff. So, and there is kind of lower view that still you have, a body that goes, and then it goes into in another phase that you just, the subtle body go into it, and then experience for 49 days, all the experience of this life, and then you find another body in somewhere another physical body or somewhere to kind of sit in, and then like when the right time you go into it.
Yeah.
And it's
there are a lot of dangerous and troublesome teachings around the Bardo because it's sexy and it sells books and it's easily misunderstood. There are people who base their spiritual practice on, what they're going to do in the Bardo while they're a Bardo being, or there's all sorts of stuff around the Bardo. But I would say that if we're not able to do spiritual practice as a human being with a human form, to think that we're going to do spiritual practice as another kind of being, in a more subtle state, transitioning through, other unfamiliar experiences is kind of silly, and there's lots of teachings and lots of books that says do this in the Bardo, and do that in the Bardo, and do this on the way into the Bardo, and do this on the way out of the Bardo, and do this through the Bardo, and it's like, how are you doing right now? It's like, it's just this kind of silly idea that there's some mystical thing over there that's going to all make it okay, and I can just be a jerk right now,
But I would just say that most authentic books, they don't really teach personal to doing the Bardo, just like the time of death, like how to ejaculate the consciousness, and they teach how other people can help the person in the Bardo through their meditation and kind of remind him of like to stay awake in the Bardo.
It's the same thing. Listen, for somebody to say, okay, at the exact right moment, as you're seeing yourself die, do this specific advanced practice. At the time of death, it's the most terrifying time of life, right? It's extremely painful typically. The mind is short-circuiting and shutting down. The neurology is misfiring. And the brain is going haywire. The mind is hallucinating. And then it's like, let's do a precise, sophisticated meditation at that exact moment. It's just crazy, people, it's just some kind of delusional thinking for people to rationalize not practicing now.
Yeah, some people do this for like few retreats on that. Some people take it seriously.
Yeah, listen, it's not to say that it isn't a valid practice. Clearly someone could be a very dedicated practitioner and spend a lot of time and energy on it to great result and to great effect. But if you're not meditating every day now, sure not that. You know what I mean? So it's like this. They're endless esoteric practices, and they're cool and they're sexy and they're mystical sounding, and they're no excuse for not keeping one's ethics and one's vows right now and having a daily meditation practice and working on one's spiritual practice like every moment of every day right now, and not just saying, I'll get to it when I die. It's just, and I'm not disparaging it, and I'm just saying it's very easy for Westerners or perhaps anyone to rationalize spiritual laziness by saying I'll do some other cool thing later, you know, and that's all I'm saying, you know,
Yeah.
or to have some idea that there's some like quick fix, you know, it'll take care of everything later, when in fact it's not a quick fix. Those practices require extensive, sophisticated training and long retreats and practice, you know, and it's not a novice thing, and it's not a dabbling thing, and you know, it's irrelevant to most people, is what I'm saying. You know,
Traditionally, people will actually attain power, like as the great yogis and stuff, and even Shantideva, I think he had this called Shankaracharya, they could ejaculate into people who already died, and there are all kind of miracles they could do like that. You can simply go anywhere. You can go into a body of somebody who died and bring him to life. And there's a story about Shantideva in Tibet, he had asked about sex or something like that, and he didn't know because he was a monk all his life. So he projected himself into a body of a king that just was dying, and for like a month, you know, he was that king and he experienced the stuff because his body had vows, and then he came back to his body, projecting himself back into the body, and comes the answer, and he won a debate with somebody. So
yeah,
but great stories like that.
yeah, but they didn't do that from like going to work and then meditating a little bit on the weekend.
No.
So, you know, it's not really relevant to us. I mean, it's nice. It's nice to read about it and say, wow, there's like these cool supernatural mystical things that can happen. And I mean, it's, you know, it's nice that it might feel inspiring, or it might feel motivational, or it might feel like it's really possible to attain some other capacity. But the scriptures are all very clear in saying, you know what, that's not the point, and it's not the goal. You know, the point and the goal is to end suffering. The point and the goal is to help other people end their suffering and end one's own suffering. And it's only relevant if in some way it contributes to that. You know, otherwise it's a distraction. Were you going to ask something, Rachel?
I was just going to add to what you were saying. I was listening to a podcast, and they were reading this letter that one Lama wrote to his confidant about being in the hospital. And I don't know if he was dying of cancer or if he was just like being treated. And he was talking about how he had meditated his entire life since he was a very, very, very small child, and had all this great, you know, ability to meditate while he was healthy.
Yeah.
And then at the point where his body was rejecting him, basically, he found it extremely difficult to even focus on anything.
Yeah.
And that really like scared me a lot.
Well,
Listening to it, but also just it kind of speaks to your point.
I mean, I remember reading Lama Yeshe's writings when he was alive, before he died, and he had scarlet fever, I think it was, or rheumatic fever. There's a hole in his heart. And as a yogi, he actually grew a muscle around that part of his heart, you know. And but anyway, he reached a point where, you know, he was in the hospital for a heart problem, and you know, they gave him pain meds and whatever, right? And he, you know, when he came out of the hospital, he wrote, he was like, you know, it was like, you know, my mind lost all its stability. It was like being assailed by powerful, you know, demigods, and you know, not able to maintain control of my mind, and you know, and it's just what it is, you know.
I would say that it's also, I've been in a room of somebody, a monk, who was dying of cancer. It was in Israel, but he was a Theravada monk, and he was a good friend of mine. Actually, in Israeli records, he's one in the course of Al-Binaya, he's talking there. And he called me in the night, just like a few days before he died, and meditate all night, and he had to have a crane to lift him like that. And even though he was on opium, I don't know, he was on really heavy medication, there was something so powerful in that time, like something of that moment was like maybe his last meditation in his life was so powerful, and I was in awe. I mean, I still remember it like it was like almost yesterday. It was so, it was something.
That's beautiful. It's very great. It's very beautiful. All of these things are the ripenings of the collection of karma.
Exactly.
You know, they don't just happen out of the blue magically. You know, they're caused, and we have to engage in the appropriate practices to bring about the results that we seek. And so, you know, if we want to have some kind of profound meditation at the time of death, or whatever, you know, we have to engage in the training, the ethics, the practices, collect the causes to bring about the result. So, you know, and yes, there are many beautiful, holy outcomes possible with Buddhism and Tibetan Buddhism. You know, one can engage in many beautiful practices. You know, the practice that we're focused upon is reversing our karma before we die. Right? Our goal is to reverse the effects of our negative karma before we die. You know, every time we think a negative thought, you know, we choke our channels, we cause ourselves to age more, and the goal is to reverse that. You know, to have less and less negative karma, more and more virtuous karma, such that our bodies become more and more subtle and more healthy and more blissful, as do our minds, and transform into a body of light and an enlightened being's body. I mean, that is the stated goal. You know, I remember when Holy Geshe Michael teaches it quite regularly, and you don't usually hear other people teaching it. I remember going to one of His Holiness's teachings. It was out in San Jose, I think, many years ago, and I think he was teaching the Heart Sutra, and he got to the point, is he's teaching about path to the end of death, and the point of the path is to put an end to death, right? In this practice, Buddhism is not about a little of this and a little of that. It's about putting an end to death. It's about putting an end to suffering and putting an end to death. And that's why we're here, and that's why we're practicing, and that's what this is about. Is not just because, life will get a little better, or a little of this, a little of that. The reason we're here is as the Heart Sutra said, is so that there's no more sickness, aging, and death. Our goal is to put an end to death by reversing the process of negative karma, and by getting rid of our negative karma and collecting pure virtue, such that we have pure minds and pure bodies and pure realms before we die. And that's the purpose of our practice, and that's why we're here, and that's why we're doing these things. And we have to keep that front and center of our mind, that's what this is about, and that's why we come here. We don't come here because it's nice to see each other, although it is. And it's not about just having nice classes and nice intellectual theories or anything else. This is about going out and living as virtuous beings to evolve into an ultimately virtuous being, which is in paradise all the time. And it's not just going to magically go from here to here in one big leap. It's like every moment of every day doing the work and making the effort to be the pure virtuous being, until you are the pure virtuous being, the resultant path. If we don't do that, then we're left with this realm, the sufferings of this realm. And so I have to very quickly go through the 6 sufferings of this realm because it's important. So these are from the first Panchen Lama. These are all mental, actually. Okay, nothing is certain and nothing is fixed. And this is a very specific reference. It actually refers to relationships, our relationships with other people, right? Obviously, everything fluctuates. Karma, we've talked about it. But this is a very specific suffering, which is the people that we're closest to, in short order, can become our enemies. You can love someone so much that you take a vow to be with them forever and love them forever, and the karma can wear out and shift, and in short order, you can hate them, and they could be your worst enemy. And that's a serious suffering in this life, and that's true of every relationship and every person. There is. There is no certainty, right? No certainty about relationship, right? It's just a matter of time until the karma wears out and shifts and turns into something else. Then friends become enemies, or vice versa. Doesn't have to be, but it's typical, right? All right. Secondly, we're never satisfied, right? Doesn't matter what we get. Doesn't matter how much we get. We're never satisfied, right? And the other thing I want to say quickly too about the relationship thing is that's especially true of Dharma teachers. Having a holy teacher in one's life is very expensive karma, and if one doesn't continue to collect the karma and perpetuate the karma, then it's done. What was a holy teacher or a beautiful teacher becomes a schmuck or someone that you don't want to be around or someone that you don't respect, right? It doesn't have to be that way, but it requires great effort to have correct view and engage properly to not burn through the karma and have it run out, right? All right, so back to the second one. We're not capable of being satisfied, right? I mean, first job I got, I mean, I was making, I don't know, whatever it was, $20,000 a year. I mean, first job was, making whatever per hour before I even went to college, right? $300 a week or whatever, working at the park. And then you get the first job and it's $25,000, and then it's $50,000, and then, you get another raise and it's $100,000, and it's $150,000. And then making $200,000, and it's like, yeah, but I could really use that bonus bump. 200 isn't quite enough. It needs to be 250. And one is never satisfied. And in a period of however many years, one could go from making, $20,000 to $250,000 and still be like, yeah, it's not quite enough. not quite it, right? And it goes on and on and on. I know people make millions of dollars, and it's not enough. And it's not like there's something wrong with me or them. It's the nature of life, right? It's just
Simply the rent of New York come up.
What's it?
Simply the rent of New York came up.
well, especially as New York rates are going up, right? I mean, it's well, not going to go there. So, okay, so that's the second suffering. Third suffering is that we have to shed our bodies over and over again. So the issue here is that we spend all of our life taking care of this one body. Like every day I take care of, this face. I shave this face, and we put cream on, and we put, potion on, and we put, and make sure the hair is just right on this body, and the clothes are just right for this body, and the shoes are just right for this body, every day of an entire life, right? And so this is the body that we put the most focus on, and the most time, and the most energy into, right? And then what happens? You come to the end of your life and you lose it, right? And then this body stops, and what do you think the natural reaction is? You fight it. I mean, you freak out, you fight it. I've spent my entire life taking care of this thing and making it pretty, making sure it runs, and making sure it's healthy, and blah, 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 right? And now all of a sudden, it's done, and I lose it? No way. Worst thing you can possibly do at the time of death is to fight against losing your body, right? So that's the next suffering of this life, is that we have to shed our bodies over and over again, and that unfortunately we do a lot of bad deeds for the body. It's like, I want this body to have these clothes, or I'll lie, or I'll engage in what negativity. I want this body to have this pleasure, so I'll trick this person or whatever. And we collect all these negativities potentially for the sake of this body and what we want to give this body, and we lose the body and we keep the negative deeds, with us, as we move forward into our next life, right? The fourth suffering is we have to take birth over and over again, right? And it's the idea of if you imagine how many bodies you've had, it's countless. I mean, in infinite time. They say it's like if you take a grain of dirt, and the number of grains of dirt in this planet, would pale in comparison to the number of bodies that we've had and we've lost thus far. And so it's the suffering of having to take birth over and over and over again. Right?
Did you hear the controversy about the Chinese are trying to say control the Dalai Lama's rebirth?
That's it. Yeah, he said he's not going to get reborn, and especially in China, they said that's not fair. We want to. You can't just stop rebirthing. So that now.
Yeah, we're going to choose your rebirth.
We're going to choose your rebirth, and reincarnation is true, says the communist state.
So then the fifth suffering is the fact that we have to go from high to low over and over again, right? I mean, it's just a roller coaster. After up comes down, after down comes up. Say, be nice to. I mean, if you work in a corporation or a business, right? It says, be nice to the people on the way up because you're going to meet them on the way down, right? Same idea, right? I mean, you can have a great position, but you have a bad meeting, and then you're a schmuck again, or if you're in a business and you're the star. You're the star for a period, and then you're the flunky for a period. You're the hero, you're the failure, right? So And it was just, yeah, anyway, I won't go into it too much, it's pretty obvious and we're late. I mean, I remember just a quick, I mean, my boss at my present job, now he used to supervise, 5,000 people in East Africa. And he would say these, like, this whole story is like, yeah, we had a whole compound, and my office was open air, and we grew vines, and they'd trail down over the sides, and they'd flower, and had gardeners, and they'd plant gardens, and it was beautiful. And then we had brought some bunnies in, and there were little bunnies hopping all over. And it was like a little paradise. And my desk was there, and people would just walk in through the vines, and it's like, it takes a day to get used to and a lifetime to get over. It's like that, right? And now he's in New York City, in an office with garbage trucks outside, with peeling paint on the wall, and I mean, everything changes, right? And everything, no matter how good it is, everything changes, right? Okay, so sixth suffering is we have no companion. Basically, we're alone in life. You come in alone, and you go out alone. And it's we have these temporary liaisons, these temporary connections where it's like you meet someone, you travel together for a while, and you part. And you can be together for a month or a year or 30 years, but you're going to part. You're going to go out alone, even if you stay with the same person your entire life, for better or for worse, right? So that's the next suffering. You're ultimately alone. You can't take anyone with you, right? So. Okay. So those are the six sufferings, and the opposites. The opposites are achievable, and that's our goal. So this is the ordinary condition of human life. Everything is broken, nothing is dependable, and it can't be fixed. It is possible to leave this realm. So let me reframe it. As long as we have the perception of being human beings and being in a human realm, built into that and implicit in that is the perception of messed up, dysfunctional, can't be satisfied, can't be happy life. Okay? If you stop having perceptions of a messed up life where you can't be happy, you're no longer an ordinary human being. I'll stop.
Sashi Pokhi Jeshin Metokram Nriva Ringji Nyinde Empadi Sangye Shindu Mide Vivargi Dropin Namda Shinla Chiparshu Hidam Guru Ratna Mandala Kaminya Gayani Gadi Gopin Sunam Yeshe Toksokshin Sunam Yeshe Legend Way Dampa Puni Doparsho.
By the power of this teaching, by the power of our efforts, by the power of our intention, may we quickly come to see ourselves as completely pure and holy, and every other living being as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for teaching.
Pleasure. So no class next week. I'm out of town for work, and I'll be back the week after that.
Bunnies in Africa.
Tell me about it, right? I mean, it's like, wow.